Well, good morning, everybody. As we start off today, I just thought I'd show you kind of one of my favorite articles that always surfaces this time of year. With the beginning of daylight saving time, this article just shows back up on social media and stuff, written a long time ago, just suggesting that the trigger for some long-standing drought in some places was caused by the introduction of daylight saving time. The argument made here that the extra hour of sunlight was causing a greater evaporation stress. Now, we all understand that this is just a joke. This is not how this works, but it's always just good fun to see this stuff. I'm actually coming to you today from Tucson, Arizona, a place that doesn't actually observe daylight saving time. There's a handful of places around the country that don't. But in reality, Mother Nature has no idea that we're shifting our clocks around. And if we look back over the last week, we can just take a good look here at total precipitation. Now, of course, we saw over the weekend the first in a series of additional big onshore flow events in the California atmospheric river events. And there were some places in the Sierra Nevada that saw over 100 inches of snow flooding throughout the Central Valley. And this is going to continue to be a major problem going through the remainder of March. We also had, not seen here on this map because this one only goes through midnight, but there was rain this morning and coming through the panhandle of Texas and storms that rolled through parts of Florida. And I'm pointing these out because these are two areas that were in drought. Now, as you look throughout parts of the Mid-South into the Southeast, very heavy rains, and this is going to be an area we're going to be concerned about, again, later this week for severe storms into this area, but just heavier rains throughout the rest of March into early April across this region and an increased severe threat. This was all snow, and there's a big snowstorm that's coming into New England very soon. I want to show you what did happen in terms of snowfall over the weekend, though. We noticed that through parts of the northern plains, coming to the upper Midwest, several places here, 6 to 12 inches of snow, very well forecast by the models. But as you take a look out into the west, just notice that right here in the central Sierra Nevada mountains, a few of these places well up into these shades representing 7 to 8 feet of snow in places through here, and much more is on the way. I want to keep you up to speed on the latest snow water equivalent maps out west. We are in this 150 to 300% range that stretches from the Sierra Nevada to the upper Colorado Basin. But recent snowfall has improved parts of the Pacific Northwest. Some areas here had been about 90% of normal throughout this winter are now up here above 100%. So this is continuing to show up with better and better water situation for the Pacific Northwest going forward. Now, I would like to address the snow issue that is in the upper Midwest because in parts of the headwaters of the Missouri River and also the Red River of the North and the northern tributaries for the Mississippi, we have 2 to 10 inches of liquid in this snow. And therefore, we're going to be concerned about what that might mean for spring flooding. And then given how wet it has been down here in parts of the Mid-South, the Mississippi River right now is actually at action stage. A lot of the tributaries are flooding. And as we have a look down there, I just want to show you that for Memphis, just picked out Memphis, as we look out not only through the remainder of March, but into April, May, and early June, the probability of getting minor flooding on the Mississippi down there near Memphis is over 40%, and moderate flooding at around a 20% chance. And I imagine these graphics are going to continue to increase in that area given the setup. The setup is really being driven by major shifts due to the complete loss of La Nina. The MJOs moved into the western Pacific, the jet stream dipped farther to the south, and it is quite energetic. And this is the next piece of it we're going to be concerned about. Currently sitting here just north and a bit west of Hawaii, this is going to be the next jet streak that targets California. And it's going to get there, if you just take a look here, it's going to be getting there on the 14th. There it is. Here it is. And it's going to be pushing into California, delivering a lot of moisture starting on the night of the 13th today, getting into the 14th. So that's our next major event we're going to have to be watching out for in this area. Now, I was looking today at the National Weather Service's outlook, so I'm going to take you to the National Weather Service out of the Sacramento office here. We had over the weekend severe storms near Fresno, a couple of tornado reports, some large hail out of some of these storms. And now as you look, there's still the risk in the Central Valley of thunderstorms throughout the day today, and you can see the main risk from these storms. But if we just go across their tabs here, the flooding risk, take a look at some of these numbers. In the Central Valley, 1.5 to 3 inches. In the Sierra and foothills, 3 to 7 inches of rain with locally higher amounts. There's a flood watch that stretches almost throughout the entirety of the state of California. You can again see some of these rainfall amounts that are coming through here. But the winter storm warning that's in the Sierra Nevada, just take a look here. Above 8,000 feet, another 5 feet of snow is expected, 1 to 3 feet above 6,500 feet. So some of the problems we're going to be having here is that there's going to be a lot of rain on the snowpack, which is going to increase that flooding threat throughout California. Now, just to show you the European model's operational run on total snowfall, there's the next event, again, the one that's coming in on the 14th, right in through there. But notice, better snows in parts of the Cascades, here north of the Snake River Valley, and more snow on the upper Colorado Basin. Now, we're not done yet. There's another push coming in late this weekend. See this one? And it's adding more snow down here in the parts of New Mexico. And that could actually manifest itself in some snow in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. We'll take a look at that in a few moments. But notice that as even I go to the end of this animation, more is being added because of the way this pattern is setting up. So while we're in the west, let's just get the total liquid out of these next 10 days from the European model. So there's the big wave that comes in on Tuesday. Here's the second wave that comes in this weekend. See it? And then as we go out there late into next week, we do see another push of moisture. So just take a snapshot here as to how much more moisture we're expecting throughout the west. Seeing that, it makes sense why there is flood watches still posted throughout much of California, getting to Nevada. But I want to turn your attention now to what's going on in New England, because we're watching a major snowstorm coming through New England later today and tomorrow. We'll finish with talking about the frost freeze risk down south. So the National Digital Forecast Database, in my opinion, I think it's probably got the best representation of the snowstorm. Although this is using a 10-to-1 liquid to snow ratio, this might be a bit aggressive. And what I mean by that is some of these snowfall totals are just throughout the Hudson Valley here are huge. But I want you to know that the model's difficulty at honing in on the snowfall amounts at this point in March are going to really show up. But we do expect kind of a slushy setup down here in New York City. This is going to be bringing some heavy snows into Massachusetts and then into the interior. The possibility, I would just say 8 to 20 inches of snow sits in this particular area. And to see that all coming through, let's go to the European model here. Let's just look at one model today to kind of get an eye on this. Okay, so let's get this queued up. This is 7 p.m. tonight. So you're going to see this low that's coming out of the Midwest right across here, that by this afternoon and this evening, we're curling up into New England. And while the main frontal boundary pushes off and it's drier across parts of the southeast up to the mid-Atlantic, keep an eye right here by the time we get into overnight hours tonight on Monday night to Tuesday morning as to where that snow should be. So this is where the European model currently makes the break between rain and snow. Very challenging forecast up the I-95 corridor. This is Tuesday midday, Tuesday evening, still there, and it finally exits by Wednesday morning. Now, while all of that was occurring, let's come back and see the system that's coming into the West Coast. This is the next big push happening here. This is starting early in the morning on Tuesday. There it is, midday Tuesday, getting into Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. This spreads throughout the Intermountain West and begins to pull out into the central United States as a system we're going to keep an eye on because of the risk of strong to severe storms on Thursday here, and adding more snow from Colorado, possibly through Kansas and Nebraska, but better chances here, from like Sioux Falls, northwestern Iowa, and into Minnesota, an area that's already got a tremendous amount of snow on it. If the warm sector is large enough, we could actually be putting down rain on top of some of the snow here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan. This is going to make for a slushy, disgusting mess out of this. And that system then again continues to pull toward Ontario. But I want to make note, there is the risk in this area Thursday night to Friday morning for strong to severe storms and locally heavy rain. So that system moves. Notice the rain moving through the southeast, the snow into southern Ontario out of this system, and then it finishes. Cold air follows it, and that cold air in this high pressure center by this upcoming weekend may be enough to drive the next system that came into California. See it right here? May be enough to drive some snow into New Mexico and maybe even into southern western Texas and Oklahoma. So this is early next week what I'm rocking over here. So a lot of activity happening in this pattern. And remember, nothing is slowing down this whole setup across the Pacific going out here to the first day of spring. And we can see another large storm system coming into California at that point. So severe weather risk, this is where it's shaping up on Thursday night. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that. And I also just want to highlight where we have the best chances of being very wet. So this is the probability of getting at least an inch of liquid out of this over the next 10 days. The drier regions stretch through parts of the northern plains into the Canadian prairie. In fact, very dry in the Canadian prairie. This is the probability of getting at least 3 inches of snow. So remember, with that system starting next weekend, that's the one that could dip down here, bring some snow to New Mexico, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. And we have the systems in between that are delivering the heavy snows in New England and also coming here across the northern tier of the U.S. right up here in the upper Midwest. Now, these maps are not valid, of course. Well, I mean, they're valid, but they're not useful in the West, given the total amount of snow we're going to be seeing there. Okay, let's switch it over to a temperature discussion here. This is what the beginning of this year has given us. So through March the 12th, many locations, especially in the south and then east of the Mississippi River, have had just an incredibly warm start. But as you saw back at the beginning, we do have this risk of, if you take a look down here, where there are already freeze warnings out for parts of the Mid-South, the Tennessee Valley, dipping all the way down here into parts of the northern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and throughout the Carolinas. Now, if we take a look at where we're expecting frost in the next 7 days, it's everywhere shaded in gray on this map. And why this is important is that this has been a very warm start to the year in the southeast, so this frost could do some pretty serious damage to some of the crops that are started there. So where's this cold air coming from? Well, for the last several weeks, we've seen it displaced away from Europe, much of Asia. And so it's set up here across, central North America into the United States. And that's going to be an area that I think the cold air is going to linger the longest because of how warm it is across much of Europe and Asia. So let's get an idea on the timing of this. What I want you to be watching is this white line. That's our frost line. So here's today's minimum temperature, so very cold in the northern plains today. Then we get into tomorrow, that moves over the upper Midwest, but take a look. That white line again showing us where there's going to be frost on Tuesday morning. Here is Wednesday morning. Now it's getting very far to the south. As we go into Thursday morning, again, we see it lingering over in parts of the Appalachian Mountains, the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, and the Carolinas. Now, Thursday, there's going to be a big warm-up ahead of the storm system coming through on Friday. So let's take a look at Friday's temperatures. These, again, are overnight lows, getting into Saturday and Sunday. So a lot of colder air setting back up in here through the weekend. Now, how long that lasts is shown in this animation. This is a one-day sliding window of temperature anomalies through the third week of March here, and then approaching the fourth week of March. There's a couple of waves of warmer air, but they don't last long. The colder air starts to return quickly behind that. And the CPC has updated their new outlook for the end of March and the beginning of April, suggesting the northern tier of the United States stays cool. What I would just make a slight adjustment on is I think this whole area is too dry in their forecast. I think this whole area is too dry as well. I think there's going to be above average precipitation and severe storm risk in this region. Now, as you notice, there's a lot to be talking about, and I tried my best to summarize just the next couple of weeks in one image that's in your report today. I'm sorry it's so busy, but these are a lot of the things we're watching here in this critical month of March, which is setting us up for this upcoming growing season. So we'll just watch all of it and continue to let the story evolve as we press through this time period. South America is also experiencing these changes. And if you notice, let's go north to south. Heavier rains are expected in Mato Grosso. This is on our newly planted safrinha crop. Finally, some drier weather in places like Minas Gerais, getting into Sao Paulo, Paraná, Santa Catarina. This has been an area that's been flooding. They need the relief. But Mato Grosso, still wetter than average. Mato Grosso do Sul, still wetter than average. The models continue to try to bring better rains out of southern Argentina into Buenos Aires, Cordoba, and Santa Fe. And these rains, of course, are desperately needed. But until they get there, the heat continues and the drought gets worse. So we're going to watch all week for this moisture to try to move its way toward the north and hit these drought-stricken areas. So that's our story set up for this week. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'll be in San Francisco. So new state, I'll be in the middle of my first atmospheric river event. I've never experienced that. A little excited, but at the same time not enjoying the idea of flying into that. So we'll talk soon. Thanks.